Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. We always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the vault, episode 485. We always want to start out by thanking everybody for hitting the like and the subscribe button, subscribing to the channel. We've been growing for years. We always appreciate all the likes, so just feel free to hit the notification button so you can actually get the pop up episodes when we go live. Always appreciate all the live listeners as well as the listeners that listen in the replay. So hit the like and the subscribe so you can get the notifications. But this is episode 485, Sunday Trustee Training, preparing trust for successors. This is one of those episodes that you get so many people that enroll into the trustee training program, and sometimes people forget that it's about themselves and they have this misconception. And so, we definitely want to talk about it today to kind of help the trustees that are enrolling in the program prepare their mindset for trusteeship. Is very challenging at times. Sometimes we can hear it for trustees, and we do our best to make it easier, quote unquote, or make the transition from the public to a private mindset. And just preparing more so the estate for the successors more than anything. Family estate for the successors is the most important thing. So we definitely are going to talk about that in this particular episode. Once again, this is Sunday Trustee Training, preparing trust for successors. So appreciate Stockton for tuning in live, Stockton, California for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Stockton, California for tuning in live, listening to replay. Once again, Sunday Trustee Training, preparing trust for successors. The episode that really a lot of people they come into the vault and they want to go private and they say, okay, I'm going private, and they get going, and next thing you know, we get to the conversations about, well, who the beneficiaries are going to be instead of who are going to be my successors as a trustee. There's a difference. And a lot of times, a lot of people, whether y'all know it or not, as a listener, maybe this is you, we sat in front of high net worth investor families and had the same conversations. And the conversation is are your children prepared to manage the family estate? So we're going to share a few case studies in this particular episode about some of the families we've run into, some of the conversations that we've had throughout the years where families necessarily don't trust their children as a successor. And then in turn, how do you prepare them for successors? How do you prepare to trust for successors? And so we're going to talk about that in this particular episode. Really, when you talk about how to prepare trust, preparing trust for successors, it's all about the successors. In some respects, some people say, well, is it about the beneficiaries? How can it be about the beneficiaries where one of the biggest concerns that we've heard recently was who's going to manage it if something happens to me as a trustee? Who's going to manage it? And this is the mindset that we encourage trustees to have, which is focusing on who that person is going to be, and identifying them, making sure that they're in tune with the family, possibly as they're moving deeper into private, deeper into trusteeship. As they move deeper into that position, who are the people that they have identified, a person that they've identified? Could be lawyers, could be a close associate that is a trusted person that when they come in, they'll stick to the script. We had a question this past week was, oh, how do I know I'm going to be able to hold that person accountable and I'm not here anymore? How's that person going to be held accountable? So there are things that we share with trustees and the training that encourage trustees to be thinking about that or focused on that as they are actually going through the program, and actually as they continue in trusteeship, is focusing on who's that person going to be once you've identified that person, possibly bringing them into a successor trusteeship, making them aware that they're a successor. you know how do you prepare them is just by letting them know, hey, we want to let you know that we have considered you. You are a candidate. If something were to happen, we do want to let you know the procedures. So, in turn, there are procedures in place. There's a system and there's process and procedures that are put in place for the successor. One of those procedures is simple things, how they're going to identify themselves to go in and take over the accounts for trusteeship. How do they do that? has that process been written out? Have you communicated with the bank to say, hey, if something ever were to happen of the trustees, this is how this situation is going to play out. Someone's going to come into the bank. They're going to be identified as this, and you're going to get a letter. Simple as that. Because you think about it, how would the bank be notified that the trustee has died? There's a few ways, or has stepped down, or otherwise. There's going to be a few identifiers, and in turn, those identifiers will be stated and traditionally gone in. You have a relationship with the banker. In turn, the banker knows, okay, they're in tune with how someone is operating as a trustee and how other trustees will operate, predicated off something happening to them. And these are just small things that happen in the public as well as in the private, where someone has a document inside. The trust document has something written inside that talks about the transition, or the someone else being elected to that position, someone else accepting that position, the successor accepting that position. And it's interesting to see how those things are in various different situations. We sat in a room with some high net worth investors recently, and when you talk about preparing trust for successors, this would be one of those things where even the most senior of us know that there's no one way to prepare trust for successors. There's no one way to do it. There's multiple ways. Multiple families have many ways of doing it. The way the way that you also prepare trust is, remember, the trust is a person. Well, it needs talent. It needs a team. The trustees are the team. What education, what talents do they have to be a successful trustee? Are those talents invested in? Are those talents grown so they can continue to do what they do best, which is come in and grow the assets in a very unique manner? So there is no one way to do it. It's just a document that states, hey, this is what the successor is supposed to have, possibly supposed to come to the table with an education in this area or that area. The demand for this entity is this education or that skill set. What are the skill sets that the trust is currently missing that it needs? Those are the preparation thought processes that are written down. Hey, we need this type of skill set because we have these type of assets here already. We have real estate assets already, so we need someone that has an education or someone that has a skill set and has an interest and has a passion in real estate. You're growing the real estate portfolio. It's only encouraged to have someone come in that's the second gen, literally, to it, and actually have a passion for it. It's so interesting to hear how many people don't want their children to do the same thing they did, to build the wealth. Oh, I don't want my children to have to go into real estate, even though we have large real estate portfolio. I don't want my children to go into this field because we built a portfolio there. Yeah, well, your portfolio now, the successor now is walking into a portfolio of assets. What are they going to do if they don't know how to grow those particular style of assets? The importance of selecting a quality trustee or preparing the trust for the trust successor is to put them in a position to win. How are they going to be in a position to win if they don't know how to manage what's there? They're just given an asset. Oh, we have an asset, and now you don't know how to use it, or now you don't know how to grow it. So you got to grow out what that trustee will end up doing, or that successor will end up doing. They'll just go out and start other interests, other passions, and grow those assets. Those other assets might get left to the wayside. They might not be built on. So in turn, it's rather important to select successors that are interested, that are passionate, that are skilled, that are talented in the asset holdings of the portfolio of the trust. The trust is a person that holds various different type of assets. A lot of people try to pass along real estate from one generation to the next. And then they put their children or the successors in a position at times where they're not familiar with this style of asset. They can't grow the asset as efficiently and effectively as if they were interested or educated. What if they're not even educated in those assets? They have to have a new learning curve that's going to be introduced to them, whether they walk through the door with that education or whether they get that education after they become a full-time trustee as a successor. They are encouraged to get that education because that education is what they're going to need to be successful in that particular portfolio and the fact that you possibly have put them in that position. So it's really important to talk about the preparation of the trustees just as much as the preparing trust for successors. Because the trust is the document. How do you prepare the successors? They walk through and they see, oh wow, there are limits on the trustee and the bank account. There are standard operating procedures in place that say we're to have a meeting every week. We get so many trustees that come into the program and say, well, I want to prepare this for my children. I want to prepare this for my children. How are you preparing something for your children and you don't have a standard operating procedure? Oh man, Trust Christian and Vote, don't say it to me like that. Why don't I have, because I got so much going on. I got to do a lot of stuff. I got to build the family estate from ground up. You're right. And you preparing trust for successors is having a standard operating procedure. These are procedures, once again, that are put in place that when the successor walks through, they can't just come through and start spending money willy nilly or however they feel like it. They have to have education standards. They have to have limitations. They have to on how much money they can manage at times. That's just what it is. What's wrong with having limitations on financial triggers where, oh, you can't just go make a financial decision as the new trustee? You have to have a second okay from the advisor that was previous from the previous generation or the previous trustee was utilizing at that time. Those are things that you do to prepare the trust for successors. These are documents that are written. These are minutes. Trustees say, oh, I need all this information. We're going over it in this episode. You put the standard operating procedures in place. We come on the line with trustees. We say, okay, there's 52 weeks in a year, so we're guaranteed to have 52 minutes every single year for one trust. That's a fact. 52 minutes. Oh, Trust Christian, you're giving the game out through the internet. Well, any business has a weekly meeting, a monthly meeting, quarterly meetings. They do earnings in the public. They have quarterly earnings. You can model the private based off the public because the public is modeled off the private. Some people say, I don't know what they're doing in the private. Look at the public. Do they have meetings? Do they have minutes? They have corporate minutes that they report from their meetings, their earnings, their numbers. How's the family doing? How's the estate doing? Who are we reporting that to? We're going over that possibly with beneficiaries, if that's the procedures that's in place. Oh, we go over this with the beneficiaries, we give distributions. This is how the public companies look. They have stockholders, which are beneficiaries, they have beneficiary certificates, and they receive quarterly reports. Do they get a dividend payout? Sometimes. The trustees can also, which are the board members, sometimes say there is no earnings this year. During COVID, a lot of companies didn't have earnings, so they didn't give distributions on dividends. They withheld dividends. They withheld distributions. Preparing trust for successors. We have to have wise and prudent trusteeship. Do the successors have an education and prudent trusteeship? So many families come and they say, well, I need the education. The most important thing you pass along to the successor is a well oiled, educated machine. The entity, the trust can't perform better than the mandate that the trustee is working with. This is where we get to the line, and this is what it comes down to. What is in the best interest of the trust? Preparing trust for successors is what is in the best interest of the trust, not what's in the best interest of the successor. Oh no, did you forget that? Oh, my kids, they were going to inherit something, but I didn't want them to think that they own it because I didn't own it. I don't want them to think that they own it. So is it for them or is it for the last name? Are they working for the trust? Did I build something that they're going to work for? Most people aren't going to build something that their family's going to work for. What did they build? Did they build something that was going to allow the family member to come in with their unique talents and abilities and operate once again in a well-oiled machine? Are they able to operate that way? Are you able to operate that way? Are you able to operate where your children or the successors are able to operate in a manner in which the documents are clear, the trust is clear, stating these are your limitations. They're on one page possibly. They're on two pages possibly. They're very clear. Very clear. Are you taking the time to write those things out? That's how you prepare the trust for the successors. Are the mistakes, maybe you have a specific meeting book that goes over the mistakes you made as a trustee. What's wrong with sharing that information with the successors? Nothing. It's a great thing. So you have a success book and you have a failure book for the trustees, for the successors. Oh man, I don't know why I would do that. Why? So they can learn. So they can be prepared for the financial times that may come ahead. Since they're the fiduciary, this is to prepare them for the times ahead. All of the work that most of the time the senior trustees are doing is literally to prepare the trust for successors. It's literally what they're doing the whole time. They're just preparing for the successors. That's what they're doing. Because when the successor comes in, successor needs to know, okay, this isn't mine. What's in the best interest of the trust? What do I need to do now as the successor in the best interest of the trust? Not what do I need to do in the best interest of myself? What does the trust need to do in the best interest of me? That's not what's stated. It's what's in the best interest of the trust. What's in the best interest of the fund? Preparing trust for successors involves probabilistic mindset, a defensive mindset. Walking them into a position gradually. You don't give people millions of dollars overnight to manage. You don't give people millions of dollars worth of assets to manage. We see people that don't want to give their children the assets while they're alive. They don't want to give it to them when they pass either. They don't want to give a baby a loaded gun. This is what they think of their children as babies, as children, financially. They don't want to give them assets that they're literally going to mismanage. How do they get around that? You prepare to trust for successors. How do they do that? Making sure that they do the minutes, making sure that they set the example, making sure that they lead by example. How do you prepare a successor and you didn't lead by example? How do you prepare to trust if you don't lead by example? We tell trustees all the time. We were doing trustee training for years on Sundays. It's an easy day to start out the week for most people to plan out what they're going to do in trusteeship. It's challenging for some people because they got to do it every week. It's only 52 pushes that they got to do, 52 pulls, 52 writings that they have to do of a paragraph, 52 paragraphs, maybe 52 pages. That's the easy route. The hard route is not doing it at all, not being consistent. How do you do that? Well, you do that by being consistent in the minutes and just letting the successor know these are the things that we're running into. These are the things that you may run into. These are some of the challenges that we run into. So when you say run into, sometimes they could have been good things. These are just everyday reports or weekly reports. What'd you do last week? What'd you do? What do you got to do this week? These are week to week pulses so you can keep the pulse on the family estate so the successor can see how you kept the pulse on the family estate, on the trust for the family. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the Vault episode 485, Sunday Trustee Training, Preparing Trust for Successors. This is one of those topics we could sit here and talk about for a long time because this is what the whole trustee training program is all about. talks about preparing their successors. But he can't prepare the successors if the trust isn't prepared to have the successors come in and do their job effectively. Once again, Christian at trustchristian.com. Christian at trustchristian.com. That's the email you can feel free to reach out to. We had to definitely go over this one. This is a big concern. We can talk about this all day, sure. People may not feel comfortable with their family. So, what are some of the options that we wrote down? Well, we wrote down that we might have to find someone outside of finding someone. We may have to just have a close relationship with the banker. If you're dealing with money and assets, you might have to deal with someone that has a great financial education. Someone that has a good legal contract education. Once again, how do you prepare to trust for the successors? You just put a team in place. It doesn't even have to be one successor. It can be multiple successors. Everybody has a role. Not everybody has access to the bank account. Not everybody has access to legal documents. Not everybody has access to all of those things. So everybody has a role. This is how you keep the checks and balances in place. When the people are scared, oh man, I don't know who's going to manage it, how they going to manage it when I'm gone. Well, now you know. You have a team in place. You build that team now. You start finding quality talent now. How many successor trustees are finding quality talent, or are they sitting on their hands? This is going to be interesting. We're going to talk about something that has been introduced in the marketplace that, whether people know it or not, we actually sit in rooms, and we appreciate the chat for having a conversation with us today. So we've heard the bulk of the heavy book lifting of trusteeship, preparing trust for successors. People may say, oh, we need to digitize the trust documents going into the future, preparing trust for the successors because the future is digital. These are the conversations that you hear. They can float around on the public and they think that senior and private trustees aren't going to say anything as if we haven't been here and we're not here. The facts are is that yes, information can be compromised in a digital way. Bottom line, it can just be compromised. And for that reason, the private is going to do its best not to be in a public forum as much as it possibly can in order to ensure the privacy. So someone typed into the chat GPT for successors. What's interesting is, just coming at it and wanting to have the conversation about this whole chat GPT and people having these AI programs that they're going to say, oh well, AI is here and AI needs to be involved in everything. Well, if AI needs to be involved in everything, we sit on the line with senior trustees all the time, ladies and gentlemen, and this is to the masses. If you think that some AI program, which is based off of previous experience, that means these senior trustees have put their experience in an algorithm. How's it going to predict something that's never happened? Well, guess what? Why do you think they say that these lawyers and doctors are practicing? Because it's ever evolving. So not only does AI have to be something that can be adaptive, they're utilizing multiple programs. So it's not just AI, it's ML, it's machine learning. They have to utilize multiple programs as if they're acting as if a trustee or a human, which has all of those programs already. They just need to be developed. See, this is the downfall possibly of the public, as they're going to get heavily reliant on these public platforms, such as some AI platform, which is only doing one slither of a trustee's job. But people are going to try to default, or we've seen people try to default in many different areas already to this thought process that this program is now smarter or can develop programs that are going to outwit the people that wrote them, the people that have lived them, the people that have created the algorithms, which are the senior trustees. Yes, ChatGPT will help the successor trustees because they will have previous information that will be put into the chat, the bot that will allow them to come up with answers based in very great answers actually based off of composite and previous experience. But this is the lack of foresight possibly from these platforms from the vault's perspective, is that these platforms are to be predictive. How can they be predictive when it is a practice? These are programs that will give you what people are lacking possibly, which is experience. When you have an algorithm, when you have a chat bot, these little things, they give you an answer based off a previous experience. Those are great tools. That's how you prepare the successors. You actually do put that content inside of a chat bot specifically in trust for that trustee, and we've broken the code. It's not hard, but but it is something that people are going to have to utilize, or possibly that we are aware that people actually are going to utilize these platforms. All these and you got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, when you're in the wealth space, it's private. So people come over here and they think, oh, we're going to try to digitize and utilize our tech information. Fine. We hear this. The wealthiest people in the world are not on Forbes. They're not on the list. They're private. How do you prepare the trust for the successors? You do your best to maintain the entity's life privacy. The person's privacy. Oh no, then you got these guys in the public. We got it. Here we go. Oh man, what are you trying to hide? You're supposed to be just like the rest of us. You shouldn't be private. Right. This is the conversation you're going to hear. You're going to ask something to the chat GPT. Well, should everybody be equal, or can everybody be private, or what's the population of private people? There will always be a population of private people. We understand the importance of privacy. We understand the importance of it. The public says there's no need for it, as if there's the only thing that needs to exist. We can have harmony with both. But somehow we got people in the public that say, "Well, I've only been educated in the public, so everybody should be public because I'm educated in the public. So we all should have a public. There should be no privacy." Not knowing that their freedoms are private. Those are not things given to you by the public. Public grants privileges. That's where private's rights are. Rights are in the private. Privileges are in the public. We appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Christian at trustchristian.com. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Always appreciate everybody for showing love and hitting the like button. Always appreciate everybody to listen to the episodes through and through. Christian at trustchristian.com for Trustee Training. Christian at trustchristian.com. Look forward to hearing from you. We can talk about these things all day. Peace and joy.